What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to another episode of the All at Sea group build. This is episode number 13, and today, guys, we're going to be focusing on the base and finishing off the aircraft in terms of weathering and all that good stuff. So first off, here on the base, last episode, I added a little bit of detail on each of the more prominent waves. Just a little bit of that clear gloss medium. I want to go ahead and take some flat white and I want to dry brush the very tips of those prominent waves. I don't know if it's really going to look good, but I honestly just want to try it. I know I've been really itching to try to get this base finished up, but we can only do so much until we actually finish the roof. Once we finish the roof, then we can go ahead and mount it and we can actually add more resin. We can do all sorts of craziness here to the base. But for right now, all we can do is add a little bit of that white caps on each of these very prominent waves. Again, I've never done this before, so this is all new to me. So let's go ahead and cross our fingers here and jump in the time lapse, just see what we can get done. And hopefully this ends up turning out. All right, let's do it. All right, everybody, so we went ahead and overcoated each of the tips of these waves with that white. It looks kind of cool, I have to admit, but I think it needs more action, more movement. Let me go ahead and put the roof down here into its location, and let's see how it looks. We'll get a better idea how it's all kind of fitting together. I like it. I don't think it's enough, though. Like I said, I think it needs a bit more. I don't want to go overboard, though. This is my very first time ever trying anything like this, and I don't want to do too much, because it's very difficult to pull it back. It's much easier to add more than it is to take away after you've already done it. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it like this for now. I think we need to turn our attention over to the roof itself, get that weathered down, get that flat coated, and then we'll be able to come back and mount it to the base, add in some more clear resin, do all sorts of fun things with that. So let's go ahead and move on to the aircraft itself. So I've been doing a little bit of reading in my A6M0 modeling book here by Offspring. Fantastic book, by the way. And there are a lot of possibilities for weathering here on this particular aircraft. We can do a lot more chipping, we can do a lot of fading, we can do gun dusts, we can do oil stains, we can do fuel stains. You name it, we can do it to this model. So we have a lot of possibilities. Now the finish itself is absolutely beautiful. It's super high gloss right now. It's just glass smooth. I love how this has turned out, but of course we need to go ahead and flat it. We need to go ahead and weather it down a bit, so that is going to be gone. We also have to do a little bit of detail painting as well. We have the landing lights, the navigation lights. We have to do some work around the fuel filler caps. We have some gun dust. We have to go ahead and airbrush onto the aircraft. There on the front cannon ports and also the shield ejection ports as well. The propeller is looking pretty decent. I don't think we're going to have a lot of weathering on that, seeing as well this is a seaplane, so you're not going to have a lot of like rocks and things flying up and hitting the propeller. So I don't know if I have to do too much chipping on that, but definitely I have to do some chipping on the cowling. I've got these awesome watercolor pencils. I picked them up at a local hobby store pretty cheap. I wanted to try these versus traditional color pencils and see how they worked. So we're going to try some silver watercolor pencil and see what that does. We also have our track mud and our gunmetal powder. Those are awesome, but of course we can always fall back on the AIM, the dark gray, and the grimy black. We also have some smoke. I want to go ahead and airbrush over the decals, a little bit of smoke to go ahead and shade in the panel lines. And that's probably going to be good to get us started. So let's roll into this and see what we can do. Not too bad, I gotta say, not too bad. I went ahead and airbrushed, with the smoke over the different decals, and I added a little bit of weathering there on the cannon ports and the gun shell ejection ports. Did a little bit of work there. So I think we're pretty good to go ahead and throw a little flat here on the aircraft to kind of bring down that shine. So to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and try another mixture of Future and Tamiya Flat Base. I'm still not sure of the ratio I want to use for Future. I'm thinking right now we're gonna probably do about 2 parts Future, 1 part flat base. I don't want to get it so flat that it actually just litters it with chalk. I am in the market for a different flat though. I've got a couple of ideas. I've got something coming in the mail, so next build we'll be able to try that. But for right now, we're just going to revert back to our Future and our flat base mixture. Now again, this is only maybe the second time I've actually used this. I read about it online somewhere and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. And I tried it on the Ventura and I really liked how that finish came out. Not too flat, not too glossy, kind of a nice semi-gloss, almost like a satin finish. More on the flatter side of satin though, if that makes any sense. So I want to try it again here on the roof, and we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and just mix this up. I want to make sure it's thoroughly mixed. We're going to load it into the airbrush. I'm going to try shooting it at about 15 psi. Just go ahead and give a nice covering here on the model. Of course, if it becomes too flat, we can always load our airbrush up with a little bit of Future, and we can hit it again, and that should eliminate any sort of frosting or fogging. So pro tip right there. Let's go ahead and load it into the airbrush and see what we can do. All right, everybody, so we have that lovely flat base there on it, and I gotta tell you, I'm not exactly 100% thrilled with how it turned out. The surface is not as smooth as I would like it to be, but I think it's gonna be all right. I also took the liberty of painting silver on each of the landing lights and navigation lights, and then I came back with some clear red and some clear blue. So that's all finished up. I think the lights look pretty awesome, but we do have to do a few other little bits and pieces here. For example, I want to go ahead and chip a little bit more on certain areas, and I want to do a little bit of an oil wash just in a few special places. For my chipping, I'm going to go back, of course, to my watercolor pencil. This is just basic Sargent Art watercolor pencil, nothing fancy, and I'm going to add a little bit more chipping in the wing root area and around the guns. I think that would be kind of cool to have a little bit more damage. So I think just a little bit here, I think that'll be decent. Plus, you're supposed to be able to kind of blend these together, so I might take a Q-tip and kind of blend it. Hopefully, this works out all right. Also, we're going to do a little bit of an oil wash too, and we're just going to focus it on only specific areas. Right here, I'm going to drop a little bit of this burnt umber right on the fuel filler caps. And then I'm going to take another brush, and I'm just going to draw it down across the wing, very much in the line of the airflow. Once that's more or less in the area, I can take a little bit of a Q-tip and then kind of blend in the edges a little bit so it doesn't look too stark. and I think that should be sufficient. I also want to do that exact same technique on the float, especially in the front of the float, because that's right below the engine. And if the engine has an oil leak or they're doing any maintenance, there could very well be oil or fuel or something that leaks down onto the float and then maybe stains it a little bit or gives it some streaking. So I'm going to go ahead and try to reproduce that with some basic oil paints, nothing fancy. I'm using burnt umber. I like that color. I think it fits well. And then we'll do a little bit of work on the back of the float too. Again, just making a little bit of a dot there with my micro brush and just drawing it down. Instead of across with the airflow, I'm drawing it down as if maybe it was sitting, and it kind of drips down, and I think that's going to work perfectly. And then the last thing I'd like to go ahead and do today is I want to paint the exhaust ports here on the cowling. I want to paint that in my Model Masters Rust. I think that's going to be a nice color for that. We're just going to overcoat them, let them dry. Next episode, we'll put a little bit of a wash on it and maybe dirty them up a little bit with some weathering powder so it's not too bright or vibrant. I think we've done enough damage on the aircraft today, so I think we are good to go ahead and just roll it into next episode. And this is how it looks. I'll give a little bit of a close-up here. I'm not 100% happy with the overall finish of the aircraft, but I do like the fact that it's not really flat, but it's not really gloss. It's got a nice, like a semi-satiny finish to it, and I tend to like those a little bit more than the straight, just dead flat colors. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Next time, of course, we'll come on back. We have the guns to install on the nose. We have to go ahead and pull off the mask. And then it's installing this onto the base. We will see you back here next week on another episode of the All at Sea group build. Until then, go out, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here next week on another episode of the Hasegawa A6M Rufe. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.